Once upon a time, not too long ago, there was a man who had 2 sons. They lived together in a beautiful home with high walls and gates that were always kept shut. Only once a year would the gates swing open to allow fresh food into the compound and to allow supplies to be taken out. But apart from those times, the gates remained firmly shut, protecting what was inside from the outside world. And this made the sons feel safe and secure. One day, the younger son went up to his father and said, "Father, give me what is going to be my inheritance." The father frowned at this request because he was old enough to know that people didn't ask for their inheritance until he was dead. But the young man insisted, and so the father felt a deep sadness growing in his heart as he tore his will to pieces and divided his property between the 2 boys. After the division was complete, the youngest grabbed his inheritance and hurried away from the house. Almost running, he took one last glance back at the towering walls before turning around and walking swiftly away from the only home he had ever known. We can see the father standing at the top of the wall, watching his youngest son disappear over the horizon. The young man continued his journey until he came to a large and vibrant city full of bright lights, busy streets, and enticing restaurants. He immediately set about spending his new wealth on enjoying himself, eating tasty food, drinking fine wine, and surrounding himself with many friends. Every day he threw huge parties, inviting anyone who would come. And for some time, life was good. But after a few months, all of his money was gone. Suddenly, no one wanted to spend time with him anymore. His friends began to avoid him, and soon he was completely alone. No longer having any money, he began to panic. He tried to find work, but no one would hire him. So he ended up working among the pigs, and they became his only companions. He was so hungry and desperate that he wanted to fill his stomach with the scraps the pigs were eating, but even that wasn't allowed. Desperate and sick with hunger, he decided to go back home. As he walked along the dusty road, he lifted his head up to look at the sun for the first time in years. It felt strange on his skin. He had never noticed such things before. As the sun began to set, he continued walking. But suddenly, he heard voices coming from nearby. Peeking through some bushes, he saw a group of men playing games and making merry. Taking a deep breath, he began to whisper the words of Psalm 145. 3. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised, and his greatness is unsearchable. Suddenly, one of the men looked in his direction and shouted, "Hey, someone's over there!" At this, the rest of the men stopped playing and stared in the direction of the voice. "Come here and join us," one of them called out. The young man hesitated, unsure if he should go to them or not. For a moment, he stayed hidden in the bushes, his body aching with hunger, wondering if they would welcome him or turn him away. But after a while, he decided that he had nothing to lose and stepped out from his hiding place. The men stared at him, surprised by his dirty appearance. But one of them, seeing his desperation, said, "Here, take this blanket and cover yourself." The man reached out and took the blanket, wrapping it around his body. Sitting down with the group, he listened intently as they spoke about God. He realized that this was something he had never done before, and he felt a sense of peace, knowing that God was listening to his every word. As the evening wore on, the men finished their game and prepared to leave. "You can stay here and sleep under the trees," one of them told the man. Thankful for their kindness, he agreed and lay down on the soft grass, pulling the blanket tightly around him for warmth. As the night wore on, however, the man found himself feeling more hungry than ever before. Unable to bear it any longer, he got up and walked away from the camp. When morning came, he found himself under a tree and knew he couldn't stay there any longer. It was time to move on and keep walking until he reached his father's house. With each step, he grew weaker and weaker until finally he collapsed on the ground, unable to go any further. As he lay there thinking about his life, he remembered all the bad things he had done and realized that he didn't deserve his father's forgiveness. Just then, a bird landed on a branch above him and sang a beautiful song that seemed to echo his own feelings of longing and despair. Unable to hold back his tears, he cried out, "Oh, God, have mercy on me, a sinner." In that moment he knew that he needed God's help more than anything else in the world, And then, something amazing happened. As if by magic, his father appeared beside him and asked, "Why are you crying?" Overwhelmed with emotion, the man poured out his heart to his father, confessing everything he had done wrong and begging for forgiveness. And do you know what happened next? Hold on to your seats, because this is the part you've been waiting for. After hearing his son's confession, the father did something completely unexpected. Instead of punishing him, he embraced him and told him how happy he was to have him back home. At that moment, father led his son to a nearby river, dipped him in its waters, and put on his best clothes. He then took him back to their home and ordered his servants to prepare a feast in honor of his son's return. The whole town was invited to celebrate this joyous occasion. There were games, singing, and dancing, and everyone was overjoyed. And you won't believe what the father did next. He gave his son the most precious gift of all, the gift of love and forgiveness. He welcomed him back into the family without any conditions and showed him that no matter what happens in life, there is always hope for a second chance. But wait, there's more. The father also invited all of the neighbors and friends to come and share in the celebration of his son, Esserit. He wanted everyone to know that no matter what mistakes they may have made in their lives, they could always come back to God and be forgiven. It was truly an amazing celebration filled with joy, happiness, and most importantly, love. The father's heart was filled with gratitude to God for giving him another chance to have his son back in his life. He knew that this was a blessing that he would cherish forever. From that day forward, the young man and his father lived happily ever after. They enjoyed every moment they had together, knowing that they had been given a second chance at life. And whenever the young man saw the stars in the sky, he remembered the love and forgiveness of his father, which gave him hope for a brighter future. And now, let's talk about the older brother. He was furious when he heard the noise and commotion coming from inside the house. He stomped his feet and shouted for everyone to be quiet, but no one paid any attention to him. When the party was over and everyone had gone home, the father went out to find his older son. He found him sitting on a nearby rock, still fuming about being left out of the celebrations. The father approached him and asked why he was so upset. The older brother responded angrily, saying that he had been working hard all those years to help out around the house and had never caused his father any trouble. He couldn't understand why the younger brother had been celebrated so much when he had been bad for so long. The father listened patiently and then spoke to his son with love and understanding. He explained that he knew how hard the older brother had worked and appreciated all his efforts. He also acknowledged that the younger brother had been bad for a long time, but said that's exactly why they had to celebrate his return. The father continued, saying that the older brother was always with him and knew that everything his father had was also his. However, he admitted that it was right to celebrate and be happy because his younger brother was considered dead when he left. But now he was alive again. He was lost, but now he was found. Upon hearing these words, the older brother felt a wave of emotion wash over him. He realized that he had been focusing on the wrong things and had forgotten the most important lesson of all, the importance of family and the power of forgiveness. In that moment, the older brother understood that his father was right. He had been with their father for so long and knew that everything his father had belonged to him. But he also realized that his younger brother had been through a lot and deserved his family's love and support. With newfound understanding, the older brother stood up and walked towards his father and younger brother. He embraced them both and apologized for not being there for them during the celebration. The three of them returned home, where they shared a meal together and talked about how they could move forward as a family. From that day on, the older brother never forgot his father's words. He learned to forgive his younger brother and appreciate the importance of family and the love that bound them together. Now, my friends, the story of the prodigal son teaches us a very important lesson. No matter how far we run or how lost we may feel, the Father is always waiting for us with open arms. He loves us unconditionally and is ready to forgive us no matter what we have done. We just need to turn back to Him and acknowledge our mistakes. If you liked this video, please hit the like button so we can continue to make more videos like this. And don't forget to subscribe for more amazing content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.